Hello, Mr. Heap here. Hopefully you all figured out that first part. It's not a ton of code, but it's kind of difficult conceptually with the self stuff. It's a little bit different than what we've been doing before. So now what we want is to print this. So let's say I run this. I have my two clubs. It's a card, and it is a club, and it's two. Alright, so now if I said print two of clubs, we would want it to print something, but here it's just telling us that it is a card object and has some numbers and some stuff that just doesn't make a ton of sense right now. So that's not what we want. So we need to tell the class how to print that particular class. So to do that, we're going to type in DEF, and we're going to do double score twice. Double underscore. I said double score. That's not it. Double underscore. So it's shift and the button next to the 0. And we do REPR and then double underscore. And when we open our parentheses, we're just going to say self. So self is what we put at a minimum in every one of these definitions here. So, or functions, methods, what have you. So in this one, we want to tell it what we want it to return. So I want it to return something, and what I want it to say is like two of clubs. So the two is the value. So whenever we refer to it, we have to say self.value. So self.value plus, I'm going to say the word of, and then self.suit. So now when I run this, I'm going to have my two clubs be a card that is clubs and a 2. And now if I say print two clubs, now it prints out two of clubs. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Now that looks great. Now we can think about other things that we would want. One thing that we could define is if something is greater or less than a value. So we could define GT, that's greater than, and then we would want it to refer to another. So, because you're comparing two things. So, so what we'd say is first we need to assign a value, and I'd say self dot card value. Let's make a dictionary where I have a value for each thing. So let's do 2 has a value of 1, 3 has a value of 2, and so on all the way up. And I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to pause the video, and so you don't have to watch me type all of this. Alright, so here I defined the 2 all the way up to the ace and gave them a number in increasing order to assign their value. So so if I want to say greater than, let's say if, so if our self dot value So we look at actually self.card value, and then in here we're going to search for self.value. So this might look a little confusing because we're using the same word. So we're going to look in this dictionary, and we're going to look for our self.value. So we're going to look for this, and if that value is greater than other dot card value, so pretty much the same thing, other dot value. So if our card is greater than their card, we're going to return true. Else, return false. So now we have to see if it works. We need to put two cards in there. 2 clubs is a card that is clubs and a 2. And let's do 4 hearts, card, hearts, and it's going to be a 4. And I'm going to say, is 2 clubs greater than 4 hearts? False. Doesn't like it. But is 4 hearts greater than 2 clubs? That is true. So it looks like our greater than function is working. Perfect.